The information presented in this true crime video is based on thorough research and available sources. However, it is important to note that all names, incidents, and events discussed are alleged. While we have made every effort to ensure accuracy, some details may be subject to change as new information emerges. This video is intended for informational and entertainment purposes only, and viewers should exercise their judgment when evaluating the content. We will not be making definitive claims about anyone's guilt or innocence, but rather explore and discuss the various perspectives and theories surrounding the events discussed. Viewer discretion is advised. The scorching St. Lucian sun bore down on the Bordelais Correctional Facility as prison officers conducted routine rounds. Some inmates engaged in yard activities in the stifling heat, while others wrapped up their recreation time. It was about 2:30 p.m., and the final roll call was being conducted. Then, chaos erupted. Deafening explosions shattered the prison's facade in the Bravo and Charlie wings, propelling the high-security facility onto the international stage for all the wrong reasons. But let's backtrack a few years as we try to piece together what led to one of the most daring prison breaks in the Caribbean. The Caribbean is known as a transshipment point for cartels across South America, from the Bahamas, which was once the base of the Medellin cartel in the 1970s, to Jamaica with its megadons and their shipments of tons of drugs, Trinidad with its cargo container shipments to the US, and most recently the British Virgin Islands. In Volume 1 of its 2017 International Narcotics Control Strategy Report, the United States Department of State Bureau for International Narcotics and Law Enforcement Affairs named the 7 Eastern Caribbean islands as a transshipment point for illicit narcotics, primarily from Venezuela, destined for North American, European, and domestic Caribbean markets. Local and international law enforcement believe traffickers are increasingly using yachts for drug transit, though. Go-fast boats, fishing trawlers, and cargo ships continue to play major transit roles. Before we dive into the belly of the beast, let's explore some of the most recent stories of the illicit drug trade in the Caribbean. On January 22, 2022, the police force discovered 54 kilograms of cocaine at a government-run health clinic in Owiya, which can be found on the northeast side of St. Vincent. You may recall that Owiya was one of the most damaged areas after the La Soufrière volcano's April 9, 2021 eruption. It was also alleged that this bust may have been linked to an estimated $22 million cocaine bust by U.S. officials in the Caribbean Sea. After the bust, 7 people were arrested, including 5 female workers. However, of the 7 people who were arrested, a 35-year-old nurse was eventually convicted and sentenced to about 3 years in prison. Later that year, in April, the Premier of the British Virgin Islands, Andrew Fahey, was arrested by U.S. officials for drug smuggling and money laundering, along with senior port official Olean Vine Maynard and her son Kadeem Maynard. It's alleged that Mr. Fahey and his co-conspirators agreed to a $700,000 payment in exchange for allowing Mexico's Sinaloa cartel to smuggle illicit drugs through the country's ports. There were also talks of setting up small busts using low-quality drugs to make it seem like officials were working hard to curb drug use on the islands. After the arrests, Mr. Fahey's trial was set to occur in July 2022. However, after several delays for various reasons, it was finally set to take place on January 8, 2024. However, on January 3, 2024, the judge postponed the trial to January 22, 2024. However, after additional filings, which give the prosecution up until February 6, 2024, to respond, it appears that another delay is likely to take place. In June 2023, Olean Vine Maynard and Kadeem Maynard pled guilty to 1 count of conspiracy to import cocaine. They were set to receive lighter sentences in exchange for testifying against Mr. Fahey. On November 20th, 2023, Kadeem Maynard was sentenced to 57 months in prison, an additional 5 years of supervised release, and will have to pay $100 in damages. Ms. Maynard is yet to be sentenced. Her sentence date was initially set for early January 2024, but was delayed to January 18th, 2024. However, another delay has seen it being pushed to February 22nd, 2024. Moving to Trinidad and Tobago, the officials made what has been described as their biggest on-land bust to date, when about 168 kilograms of cocaine with an estimated worth of $234 million was seized on May 18, 2023, in the car park of a hotel in Chaguaramas. Of the 3 people found in the vehicle, 1 male was arrested and charged with possession of cocaine for the purpose of trafficking and possession of a Glock semi-auto pistol fitted with an automatic selector, an extended magazine, and 13 rounds of 9mm ammunition. Based on these cases, it's clear that there is no shortage of illicit drugs and guns coming into the Caribbean. But today, we will focus on the island of St. Lucia. Welcome to the underbelly of St. Lucia. Strategically positioned in the Caribbean, St. Lucia, or the Helen of the West, has become a prime target for drug traffickers. The island sits between Martinique to the north and St. Vincent to the south, with Barbados and Trinidad in proximity. Behind her picturesque facade, she hides a darker truth. According to St. Lucia's Central Statistical Office's latest crime statistics by type and outcome report, there was a total of 235 drug offenses in 2020, which included offenses like intent to supply cocaine, intent to supply cannabis, unlawful possession of cocaine, unlawful possession of cannabis, trafficking cocaine, attempt to import-export cannabis, attempt to import-export cocaine, cultivating cannabis, and possession of other drugs. Of these offenses, a whopping 45% was attributed to the unlawful possession of cannabis. Let's fast forward to 2024, when the Royal St. Lucia Police Force reported an almost 30% decrease in narcotics-related charges during 2023 compared to 2022. According to the police force, there were 167 drug-related cases, 100 of which originated from the south of the island. Several of these offenses were related to the intent to supply or the unlawful possession of cannabis. Nonetheless, the police force resolved an astonishing 79% of these offenses. Let's look at some of St. Lucia's most recent major drug busts. On April 27, 2021, the Royal St. Lucia Police Force seized a cargo container of compressed cannabis with an estimated street value of $4 million and a weight of 1.97 tons on the compound of a well-known business in the north of the island. The shipment was believed to have come from Jamaica. However, no one has been arrested or charged for the offense. On July 10, 2022, through the combined efforts of Marine, Drew G, and Special Services units, the Royal St. Lucia Police Force seized 100 blocks of cocaine, totaling 116 kilograms and worth about $3 million at Lance Cork Beach in Dennery. One man was charged with the possession of a controlled drug and the possession of a controlled drug with intent to supply. On September 7, 2023, another cargo container, located at a business establishment in Grow Islet, was discovered to contain about 400 kilograms of suspected narcotics. Again, no one has been arrested or charged for the offense. St. Lucia, only 1,000 kilometers from Venezuela, is an idle location. Venezuela, now deemed the new narco state, finds itself entangled in a web of criminality. The Caribbean, often overlooked in discussions about drug routes, serves as a crucial link between Venezuela's drug lords and the international market. From Trinidad to Barbados, from St. Vincent to St. Lucia, the narcotics follow intricate paths, fetching varying prices. St. Lucia, with its 1-hour backdoor route to Martinique, becomes a lucrative spot. Purchasing drugs at prices ranging from $3,000 to $7,000 USD per kilogram, with easy sales being made 1 hour away from 6,000 to 10,000 euros per kilogram, seems like easy math. The risk multiplies as these substances are smuggled to England, where a key can go for £25,000 to £35,000, or to the United States, where prices skyrocket to tens of thousands of dollars per kilo. Mules are always available, and specialists who pack compartmentalized suitcases are one phone call away. This sets a scene for regular citizens to be intrigued by the trade. This highly profitable trade, far from being limited to the Caribbean underworld, involves influential figures orchestrating operations through local gangs. Luxurious lifestyles, expensive cars, and extravagant mansions paint a stark contrast to official incomes, revealing the undeniable influence of the drug trade across different islands. We say this to set the following scene of what was about to unfold. Now that you have had a small look into the illicit drug trade in St. Lucia and the wider Caribbean by extension, let's rewind to 2009. Amidst preparations for upcoming elections, the Royal St. Lucia Police Force gears up for a major sting operation as part of their efforts to adopt a tough stance on crime. Meanwhile, two young men prepared for a perilous 7-hour journey on a high-speed boat to deliver a shipment of drugs. In the sultry dawn of 2009, two Venezuelan men, 33-year-old Ulysses Jose Marino Luna, also known as Black Horse, and 29-year-old Edgardo Boada Rodriguez, also known as Rafael Jose Yepes Betancourt, prepared for a risky journey from Venezuela to St. Lucia. As the sun painted its hues across the Caribbean, they meticulously checked their gas, packed their food, and secured their precious cargo for the arduous journey ahead. Their mission? A 7-hour odyssey on a high-speed boat, navigating the treacherous waters, avoiding every known coordinate where coast guards from various nations maintained a vigilant presence. Shrouded in secrecy, the duo embarked on their journey, unaware that destiny had laid a trap for them. Luna and Rodriguez completed their perilous voyage, seemingly unscathed as the sun dipped below the horizon. Little did they know that their arrival marked the beginning of a relentless sting operation, orchestrated by the Royal St. Lucia Police Force. Through its meticulous planning, relevant information, and efforts, the police force was able to determine the duo's illicit route. With precision, they closed in on the unsuspecting smugglers, revealing a shocking discovery. The pair had a staggering 485 kilograms of cocaine and had unwittingly fallen into the hands of justice. In the harsh glow of flashing lights, Luna and Rodriguez were apprehended as their seemingly carefully laid out plans unraveled. The dream of lucrative gains became a nightmare as the Caribbean night echoed with the sounds of shuffling feet as their precious cargo was carried to the awaiting vehicles. As the men pondered the consequences that awaited them, they attempted to bribe the officers with the promise of a substantial amount of money to release them, but their generous offer was turned down. As their freedom quickly slipped through their fingers, Luna and Rodriguez found themselves transferred to the Bordelais Correctional Facility. The Bordelais Correctional Facility is currently the only prison on the island and cost the government of the day, the St. Lucia Labor Party, about $48 million to build and sits on about 33 acres of hilltop lands in the district of Dennery. Bordelais was officially opened on January 15, 2003, and was intended to house a total of 500 prisoners, but it has been known to surpass this figure. Currently, the prison houses 572 prisoners, which includes 17 females and 555 males. The prison comprises the following units, which are used to house inmates: Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, Delta, Echo, Tango, Foxtrot, Golf, Hotel, and India. These units accommodate inmates in segregation, females, penal offenders, maximum security convicts, young offenders, and detainees on remand. Prior to the prison's opening, 78 persons underwent a 2-month-long training program to help them better attend to the prisoners' needs. Eventually, all 78 persons were hired as correctional officers at the new facility. Bordelais was constructed based on the belief that it would help rehabilitate prisoners instead of punishing them. It was described as an unfortunate necessity by then Prime Minister Dr. Kenny Anthony. He also said, "This investment in Bordelais should be seen as a clear and tangible signal of the government's commitment to curbing crime in St. Lucia, and will bring an end to the inhumanity and indignity of the old royal jail. To aid with its rehabilitation efforts, the prison also includes a chapel, classrooms, a library, a recreational yard, a tailor shop, a farm, sports programs, and the kitchen, among other facilities and programs. You may be wondering why there was a need to build a new prison if one already existed, and the answer is quite simple. The old prison was too small to accommodate the increasing demand for space to hold new and repeat offenders. Although it was built to accommodate about 60 prisoners, the facility housed over 400 inmates, and as such, prisoners could not be separated, which allowed juveniles to mingle with hardened criminals. Additionally, its grotesque conditions were described as barbaric, unsuitable, and inadequate by then Minister of Home Affairs, Sarah Flood Beaubrun. To add insult to injury, Her Majesty's Prison, or the Royal Jail, was conveniently located on Upper Bridge Street in the city's center, making it easy for prisoners to escape. Dr. Anthony said, "With the construction of this prison, we have taken a decisive step to bring to an end the ridiculous and untenable situation of a penal system that cannot keep its prisoners behind bars. It is now more difficult for hardened criminals to simply walk out of jail or scale the prison walls, as was the case in the past. So, if the prison was built to curb the escape rate, how is it that Mohammed Duncan, Ulysses Luna, and Edgardo Rodriguez were able to brazenly escape the high-security Bordelais Correctional Facility? Before and after this 2010 disaster, there have been many successful escape attempts from Bordelais. Here are some of the more recent ones. For example, less than 1 month after the trio's daring escape, a 21-year-old convict who was serving time for drug possession escaped the facility. On October 18, 2016, 33-year-old Hanson James, who's also known as Dirty White, escaped while serving time for stealing and gross indecency. He was then sentenced to 4 years and 7 months. At the time, he was under the supervision of a junior officer in the Delta Unit. He was able to escape by scaling the prison's many layers of fences, which were further secured by barbed wire. He did so without getting so much as a scratch. Is Dirty White St. Lucia's Houdini? For all his efforts, James was recaptured about 28 hours later while hiding underneath a house in Dennery. On January 11, 2024, Hanson James recently tried to escape the facility again by scaling the fence during his rec time, but was immediately stopped by the prison's Special Operations Response Team. On March 21, 2020, 6 prisoners were successful in their escape attempt, some more than others. 4 of them were fortunately caught almost immediately. The other 2, Dave Joseph and Markin Marquis, required some effort before they could be recaptured. Following the escape, the prison was put under lockdown, which caused the prisoners to riot and burn mattresses in response. But that's for another episode. Dave Joseph, also known as Pirate or Bird Eye, had been charged in 2015 for fatally shooting 18-year-old Brandon Breedy 3 times in his head and chest as he slept at his residence on September 7, 2015. He was recaptured on March 22, 2020. Markin Marquis, or Roadblock as he was also known, proved to be the most difficult of the bunch. Roadblock was arrested on December 2, 2019, for fatally shooting 27-year-old Vieux-Fort resident Lyndon George. George was working as a DJ in a dance hall in Vieux-Fort on November 30, 2019, when he was shot once in the head at about 2 a.m. on March 25, 2020. Marquis was fatally shot by the police as he attempted to leave the island on a stolen canoe. This brought a 5-day manhunt for Marquis to an end. The most recent escape happened on September 17, 2023, when 55-year-old convicted rapist Elwin Lancequot, also known as La Pour La or Big Dude, absconded from the facility. He escaped while working on the farm, an assignment usually reserved for low-risk prisoners. Lancequot had been serving a 20-year sentence for kidnapping, raping, and falsely imprisoning a young lady from Canaries in September 2006. He was recaptured on the evening of September 18, 2023, while hiding in bushes in a nearby community. Those were some pretty interesting escape stories. As we saw, many of the offenders had no solid escape plan, with many seemingly lost on what to do next after the initial phase of their plan went through, while others had no intention of ever being caught. But in the case of the 3 subjects of this video, they would never be seen by the St. Lucian authorities again. But let's take a few steps back to where we left off when Ulysses Luna and Edgardo Rodriguez were arrested and remanded to the Bordelais Correctional Facility. Luna and Rodriguez were said to be a part of one of the biggest cartels in Venezuela. Although we were unable to confirm which one, it's believed that one of them was the heir to the throne of the leader of the cartel, while the other was the son's right-hand man. It is said that the multi-million-dollar shipment the duo was delivering was very important, as it would help to establish a new connection in St. Lucia, which is why the son was a part of this perilous journey. At the time of the escape, the men were serving a 2- and 4-year sentence, which ran concurrently. Upon their arrival at the facility, Luna and Rodriguez were placed in a cell alongside a young man who had risen that morning with no clue about where he would be headed soon. He was Mr. Mohammed Duncan. Who was Mohammed Duncan? Mohammed Duncan, known on the streets as Tuki, hailed from Morne-du-Don in Castries and was the son of Mami, a vendor at the Vendors Arcade in Castries. She proudly catered to the many tourists flocking to St. Lucia annually. His younger brother, Teflon, mysteriously died during a narcotics delivery trip to Barbados. Another sibling, Nathan Duncan, is currently incarcerated at the Bordelais Correctional Facility, facing charges of murder. Tuki, who was born into a life marred by notoriety, garnered a reputation in the city's center by the age of 21 and was 22 at the time of his escape. With strong ties to the Bois Patat and Conway communities, he was infamous for his involvement in crime, ranging from robbery to shootings. He eventually moved to Bruceville, Vieux-Fort, and found himself under the guidance of Bruceville's leader and became one of his enforcers. Tuki's rap sheet included convictions for possession of a firearm and ammunition, as well as a charge for wounding. At the time of his escape, Tuki was serving 7 years for the possession of a firearm and ammunition. He was also on remand and awaiting his trial for the attempted murder of a justice of the peace in Vieux-Fort. What happens when Tuki, Luna, and Rodriguez converge within the confines of the Bordelais Correctional Facility sets the stage for a tale entwined with desperation, escape plans, and the pursuit of justice. Let's find out. What many may not know was that there was an alleged 4th accomplice. Surprisingly enough, it was a Colombian woman by the name of Sandra Fernandez, who was housed in the female unit and may have been planted by the Venezuelan cartel. How, you may ask? She was arrested at the airport after customs officers asked her about a ticking sound coming from her handbag. During questioning, she claimed it was a bomb, leading the relevant authorities to shut down the airport, causing chaos. The bomb was found to be a simple clock upon inspection. When asked why she had made such a claim, she stated that she was angry after being fired from her previous job on a cruise. In general, if you're fired while working on a cruise ship, you're dropped off at the nearest port, and it's your responsibility to get home. As such, this is why she ended up in St. Lucia, hoping to catch a flight to Trinidad and then to Colombia. For her bomb scare antics, this woman was awarded a 6-month all-expenses-paid stay at the Bordelais Correctional Facility. This is how she was planted and was able to help the men with their escape plan. But how was Ms. Fernandez able to help with the escape plan when she was in a separate unit that was not accessible to the men? It is rumored that she drew the layout and schematics of the prison and relayed the information to the relevant people in Venezuela who would formulate the plan. Upon her release, prison officials found many letters, drawings of the prison layout, and other correspondence. Although Mrs. Fernandez provided significant help with the plan, there are many unanswered questions. For example, how did the rescue team come into the country? How long was the team on the island before attempting the rescue? How did the team find its way through the thick, snake-infested brush surrounding the prison without being detected? How were Ms. Fernandez, Luna, and Rodriguez able to share the necessary with outsiders without being detected? This question is particularly relevant to Ms. Fernandez, who is said to have been communicating via letters. Is it that prison officials don't review incoming mail before passing it on to the inmates? Let us know in the comments how you think they were able to do it. Nonetheless, it is highly speculated that Tuki was able to source cell phones and prepaid credit, which allowed Luna and Rodriguez to communicate with their counterparts back in Venezuela. Tuki may have also helped with the coordination and eventual execution of the plan. Now that we've discussed how the plan was put together, let's fast forward to August 8th, 2010. It was between 2 and 3 p.m. The recreation period was about to end, and inmates were being led to their cells whilst the final roll call was happening. At this time, loud explosive sounds could be heard reverberating through the air. This grabbed the attention of the correctional officers on duty and prompted the relevant personnel to run to the armory and grab their firepower. The prison authorities discovered that the sounds were coming from the southern end of the prison, which is only accessible by climbing through thick, snake-infested forested lands overlooking a cliff. This is also where the Bravo and Charlie units were located and where the 3 offenders were locked up. As onlookers stood by helplessly, 3 people who were assumed to be male emerged. They were dressed in black from head to toe. No part of their body was visible except for their eyes. They appeared to be well-trained, very tactical, and displayed military-like movements. They were also armed with fully automatic rifles and provided cover fire as one team member tossed a bolt cutter to one of the inmates in the Bravo unit's rec yard. The inmate cut through 3 layers of fencing before throwing the bolt cutter to the Charlie unit's rec yard so the other 2 men could do the same. Although the prison's Special Operations Response Team returned fire, their paltry semi-automatic weapons were no match for the alleged professionally trained paramilitary group who brandished fully automatic high-caliber rifles. Despite all of their firepower, the authorities confirmed that no one from the rescue team breached the facility's boundaries. In a matter of minutes, the 3 men were on the other side of the fence, bidding farewell to their place of captivity. The men were never seen again. It's assumed that a high-speed boat awaited them at the dock, which facilitated their escape to the neighboring island of St. Vincent, where they changed vessels and made their way to Trinidad, then to Venezuela. The theory that the group had successfully made it out of St. Lucia was confirmed by then Police Commissioner Vernon Francois, who said, "We have some intelligence that we're working with which suggests that they're out of St. Lucia, so we're working with our international counterparts. Notwithstanding that, we're still following some local leads." In response to the incident on that fateful Sunday afternoon, members of the Royal St. Lucia Police Force spent several hours throughout the night and into Monday morning, interrogating the correctional officers who were on duty at the time. In the aftermath of this daring escape, the news quickly spread regionally and internationally, with news reports coming from the UK and US. The Americans were quite concerned that Luna and Rodriguez, who had been on their radar, managed to escape what was supposed to be a fairly new, high-security facility, and further, that they were unaware that the 2 men had even been imprisoned to begin with. Many international agencies were also concerned that corruption may have played a major role in the daring escape. Local officials also expressed suspicion that the bold escape might have been aided by officials within the institution. To this end, a correctional officer, along with 3 other persons, was arrested during a raid in a nearby community in connection with the escape. Nonetheless, despite the arrest, the correctional officer suffered little to no consequences for his alleged role and was soon back on the job. Be that as it may, many probes and investigations later, and the St. Lucian authorities have yet to find any concrete information on how this event happened and where the men were. Although this could not be confirmed, it was said that Tuki was housed with the leaders of the cartel and even started a family. Rumors of images that circulated soon after the escape seemed to confirm that he was alive and well. About 3 years later, in 2013, speculation suggested that he was killed during a traffic stop by Venezuelan police officers. but this story may have been circulated to take the heat off Tookie in St. Lucia and to facilitate his eventual return to the island. As of recently, it was alleged that Tookie had returned to the island under a heavy disguise to visit relatives. But again, this account could not be confirmed. In the end, all we know is that these men pulled off an Oscar-worthy escape. Years have passed, and the legend of the prison break lingers in the shadows of local law enforcement, relegated to a story told in hushed tones among those who pursue justice. The escapees are now ghosts of the past and have seamlessly integrated back into the society from which they came. We leave you with this message from the Royal St. Lucia Police Force. Drug trafficking is a serious crime that poses a significant threat to our society. The police are committed to clamping down on this illegal activity and bringing those responsible to justice. We urge the public to support us in this fight by reporting any suspicious activity or providing information that could help us identify and apprehend drug traffickers. We also understand that drug trafficking can be a source of concern for many people, but we want to reassure you that we are doing everything in our power to keep our communities safe. We are of the firm belief that together we can make a difference and put an end to drug trafficking. Thank you for watching. We appreciate you. Tell us what you thought of the video in the comments. We love hearing from you. While you're at it, don't forget to turn on that notification bell, like, share, and subscribe.